with the Oscar-nominated visual effects team for Better Man. I have Peter Stubbs, the special effects supervisor, Luke Miller, the VFX supervisor, Keith Herft, the sequence VFX supervisor, and Dave Clayton, the animation supervisor. Guys, thanks for being here all the way over from New Zealand and Australia. Um, this was a lot. I was not prepared for what I was going to see when I saw this at Telluride, and I've never seen anything like it. So, how did you guys get brought in here? Did you think somebody was doing a bit when they told you they were going to do a CGI monkey Robbie Williams movie? How did you guys end up on the project?
I read the script. We had a pitch meeting at work, which was just sort of going through the upcoming projects. And at this point, some of the previous work had already taken place. So there was some sort of visuals to go along with this pitch meeting, and I was on the hook after about the first 30 seconds. I read the script shortly after that, and then I put my hand up and said, "Please put me on this film. Like, I want to be a part of it."
Yeah.
It was kind of the same for me too. Like Michael Gracey, he came and did just a presentation at Weta one day while he was down for the previs with Dave, and just the idea was so wild that I thought, I have to see where this goes. And I have some association with MG and Robbie through my previous career, so um, it was just all instantly go for me. I had to be a part of it.
Yeah, I met I've worked with Paul Curry, the producer, before. He asked me in to come to the studios and meet Michael, and I really didn't have an idea of the background apart from that it was a biopic on Robbie Williams. And then I met Michael, and he told me about the whole concept of it being a monkey, and of Robbie being a monkey, and that as much as that sort of bewildered me, it also whetted my appetite to see what was going to happen. So yes, I was in at that point.
Yeah, I guess
Dave?
I had the same sort of thing. I was kind of much earlier before there was any really previs or anything done because yeah, they approached me to do the previs, and I got the script and I was bewildered as well until I was like halfway through, and then I thought, actually, this is a really neat idea, and it's going to be exciting to be a part of. And it's a musical. When do visual effects people get to work on musicals? It's kind of rare. So yeah,
Whenever Michael Gracey directs, that is the answer.
yeah, exactly.
Uh,
So yeah, I was keen to get on board as well. Yeah.
so Dave, you kind of, because you mentioned you were on earlier with Previs, you kind of tee up my
Mm,
first question, which is, Michael Gracey, my understanding was that he used to be a VFX guy before he shifted to directing. So
mhm.
I was curious about what the experience with working with a director who really understands what it's going to take on the back end and during
Mm.
production to make a complicated VFX show work. How is that experience different than working with a director with a non-VFX background?
Well, I think it was really refreshing and great, knowing that he was sort of one of the tribe kind of thing, and knowing that he could relate to us was really amazing. And he embraced the previs, obviously, which we love doing because it means that we can get involved early and sort of get an understanding of the character and what's required from the project. So we love kind of getting started in that early phase. But it also helps when you're filming because you've sort of got this roadmap of previs that everyone can kind of can look at, and it means that Michael Gracey can dial all sort of aspects of the sequences sort of early on in that when we're in that iterative state, and sort of answer a lot of questions up front. It's like that methodology of uh, measure twice, cut once kind of thing. Um, but the other side of that being part of the visual effects world, Michael Gracey he was really thoughtful towards us. He made it clear that he was supportive of our ideas, that he wanted to hear from us, he wanted to collaborate, he wanted us to have a good time working on his film because he'd worked on films before and he knew how important that was as an artist to get that kind of validation from the client. So he was really supportive and very encouraging. Every time we would send him work, he'd be really complimentary of it to kind of keep us going and keep our morale up, even though we were all loving the project anyway. But I think that was a big part of it, right, guys? That he was super supportive and complimentary.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The other thing which I've said is he has worked in visual effects. Obviously, that's where he started his career. But he also hasn't worked in visual effects for quite a while as well. And there were many times where we'd be shooting something on set, and he'd be looking at me going, "How the hell are you going to do this?" And I'm like, "No, it's all right. Things have moved on a little bit since since you were working on this stuff." But no, it was really cool, and he also gave us a lot of time on set as well. Like, obviously we need to gather additional passes. We had a very vintage lens kit on this film, give it a very specific look. And Eric Wilson, the DP, shot into a lot of light sources as well, which it created an insane amount of flares and an insane amount of work. But we were given the time to be able to document and get all the bits and pieces we needed to replicate those lens qualities in post afterwards.
Yeah, I think we probably did one of the most extensive sets of data gathering after this film, and I think because MG knows that it would take a lot to recreate what was being shot, because like Luke, we'd be standing at the video split and Jono would be completely covered in a lens flare for half the shot, and he would say, "Good luck." And we'd have to go, "Yeah, I think we can do this." But yeah, because we had he understood that we needed the opportunity to gather all that information to be able to do that job. We did, and it worked out really well.
And Peter, you were you were on set the whole time as the special effects guy, right? So
Yeah.
I imagine
my role was just, in the in the shooting side of it. I take my hat off to these three for the amount of work that they've put into creating the character of Robbie and the monkey Robbie, and yeah, when all this award stuff started to come up, I hadn't seen the film. These guys had seen it 10,000 times, I'm sure, but I hadn't seen the film. And then I saw the film on the opening of in Melbourne, and yes, I was blown away. It is a fantastic movie, and but yes, I was there all the time during shooting, so there was lots of there was tons and tons of atmos that Eric wanted to do. There was rain sequences. There was rain sequences that had to go from exterior locations into studio locations, and it had to have in my mind a certain look, and it needed to be it needed to be a star as well. I'm sure these guys took away my rain and put bits back in and all that sort of stuff, but I won't ask them that.
No, we didn't. It's actually one of the things I'm really proud of on this film, Peter, is every single thing that you did is in the film. Like, we didn't replace anything. The only thing we did is, obviously when we were on stage in Rod Laver, we had a huge Technocrane on the stage, so we had to get rid of that and then extend the dry ice. But all of the special effects work is in the film.
Does that include the scene on the yacht where I think there's like fireworks and stuff? Was any of that done in camera, or was that something that
it was in a studio? So no, it's not ideal to fire fireworks inside a studio. No, that was these three gentlemen.
Yeah. And then what about the honestly, I wasn't expecting to see a axe wielding battle sequence. What did you have to do in camera for that? It's shot. Was it supposed to look like Justin Kurzel's Macbeth movie? Was that what they were going for? Like the orange, the flames? Was any of that in camera, or was that?
No.
Everything. So part of the sequence, so it's the Nebworth sequence that we're talking about, and the moment Robbie leaps off the stage is the moment we leap into a full digital environment. Prior to that, there's the stage and a lot of the crowd around the stage. That was all part of a shoot that took place in Serbia. We sort of literally put on a rock concert for the same half a song about 200 times in a row. Yeah, the moment he jumps off the stage, that's where it becomes fully digital.
But of course, you have to honor the camera work, the framing, the lensing, the movement of the camera, and everything. You need to try to keep that consistent with what's been established throughout the rest of the film, so that it doesn't bump. Because of course, you're going into a kind of a surreal. Well, you're going into Robbie's head as he has a kind of a psychotic breakdown, and so it is surreal, but you don't want it to bump too much in terms of, aesthetic style.
So
Yeah, for
speaking
sure,
of,
because Eric's style was so intimate and close, and it really was a distinct part of the film. So whenever we took over things digitally, we, as Dave says, we really had to make sure we were staying grounded in everything that was shot previously.
so speaking of aesthetic choices, what was the conversation like about what kind of monkey Robbie should look like? He's a chimp, and he this is Weta. I guess Weta also worked on the Andy Serkis Apes movies, and there's some similarity there. I was curious about in terms of going for a visual reference with that, or was there a different type of monkey you considered? So how did we come to get the Robbie Williams as chimp that we got, basically?
Yeah, so we started off with a chimpanzee, and Robbie Williams as a scale. Chimpanzee on one end, Robbie Williams on the other end, and trying to map out where we were going to land along that scale. Early on, we did a lot of sort of concept paint overs, and it was, always like taking human components and then working them into the design to see at what point did it get too weird. Like a chimp with human teeth, definitely in the too weird basket. And sort of initially, I think we pushed it a little bit too far. We definitely went too human, and it fell straight away into the uncanny valley. So then we started pulling it back towards more chimp, and but the only thing we did retain from Robbie, 100% human, was the eyes and the eyebrows, which there's a lot of storytelling and a lot of emotion that comes from that area of the face, even outside of the dialogue. So having the ability to create that level of emotion in that area was key, and that was where it sort of clicked into the balance between likeness and and chimpanzee.
What about his fur? I mean, I noticed you at a phase in his life when he bleaches it, you gave him full bleach like body hair. I know, I guess CGI fur is famously difficult to really get perfect because you have to animate down to the bristle almost. So tell me a little bit about the ever-changing Robbie Williams fur texture in here.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. We've got here at Weta, we've got very physically accurate fur shading models. Like they're insane. It's sort of because hairs are hollow, right? So it calculates the way the light goes through this hollow thing and comes out the other side. And so we don't have typical, we can't just say make this hair brown. It's you dial in the melanin properties to make auburn hair or blonde hair or whatever. I don't think we had a slider for peroxide. No one anticipated that to be a thing. So the shady team had to go and figure that one out. And then obviously the first pass that they did was they bleached this part of him, just like where a human's hair would be. They just bleached that, and then it feathered back into brown fur afterwards. But it was like, well, it looked kind of strange. I was like, why, if you were a chimp and you wanted to bleach your hair, why would you stop randomly somewhere around your neck? Like
Yeah.
you would you? So we were like, all right, let's just peroxide all of him. Like why, there's no obvious place to stop. So we just peroxided his whole body, and it just felt natural and worked.
And in keeping with the character. That's what Robbie would have done.
Yeah, I completely buy Robbie Williams would have peroxided every inch of himself. And then, you were talking about the rain and the different elements. You have more experience with getting fur wet generally than you do with peroxide bleached fur, but still, I mean, he's interacting with quite a few elements. So tell me about the process of Robbie's body often looks distressed. It's wet often. I mean, you wanted to showcase he's getting fat at times, at least from his perspective. So tell me a little bit about distressing this furry model.
Keith, you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. So we knew, Robbie really goes through the wars in this film and in his life, really. So at the very start, we definitely established a range of looks where we knew, he was going to be drunk or have a lot of coke at times. So what do? We kind of give him redder eyes and saggy bags and that kind of thing. We kind of worked into making his fur more clumpy and distressed looking, like you say, as a specific look that we could use for sequences. And so, yeah, there were this established range of looks that we decided per sequence what we should go with, depending on the story point at the time.
Okay, so there's one scene, I'm sure if you're on social media, you notice that the entire world, even people who haven't seen the movie yet, are focusing on, you know what I'm gonna say. It's the rock DJ sequence. From the bottom up, tell me about building that sequence. So I guess Peter, we'll start with you on that.
Like that component was for my part was we were in the parts were shot in Melbourne, where they were coming out of the building and inside the where they're on the piano and jumping around with musical instruments. That was in Melbourne, and then once they run outside, you guys shot a whole lot of stuff in Regent Street in the UK and London. So and that I wasn't there for.
Okay.
So I would have started with
maybe I should go first step.
Yeah,
I'll go first step. So the beginning of the rock DJ sequence was Michael sharing his sort of video viz / storyboard version of it. So the beauty of working to a musical is you have the song and it's 4.5 minutes long, whatever. And so you can sort of map the action to that and try to do the right things at the right times. And they had done a beautiful pass of kind of some rough video viz and dance choreography, as well as some storyboarding to get the beats in there. And they gave that over to us. And we used like a digital scan of Regent Street, digital camera, and just some simple chess pieces of Robbie cruising down the street. So we could map out how long it would take to get from A to B, when the right moments to cross the road, etc. Once that was kind of established, we were starting to work out what the lens might be, and what the background characters would be doing. And then we did some motion capture, some simple motion capture. We have a stage here that we have access to. Myself and a bunch of the other previous crew, we donned the mocap suits and we did our best to learn the choreography. And we broke it into chunks and we danced our way down Regent Street, plotting out the action. The reason this was important is because it means when you've got your previs, which looks kind of like a video game, simple rudimentary kind of video game, if you've got motion capture in there and it has that realistic quality of motion, everything just starts to sit nicely and you can more easily understand the camera move and the action, and you can really get a sense that, hey, this is going to work. And then I put all those chunks of motion capture into the sequence, added some simple pogo sticks or mobility scooters, all the things that we needed, buses, the angel beat at the end, everything's there in the previs. And if you watch it, you can see that it's a complete version of the shot in its very sort of crudest form. But it means then you have a roadmap and everyone can sort of buy off on that. Of course, you iterate on every element of it. At one point, they were sort of crossing the road in a different spot before they did the pogo stick, stuff like that. So we kind of arrived at pretty much the final choreography and framing, timings and everything. And then, over to Keith and Luke.
Yeah. So
Well,
then,
look, yeah.
I was going to say,
I
then
was, I was just going to say it was all Luke on Regent Street.
so we
Luke,
take
let's hear it.
we take the previs, and then we need to figure out how to shoot it. So that's me sitting down with Eric, the DP, figuring out how to move the camera through the space. There's a few things we had to tweak because Dave's previs didn't have all the street furniture represented. So, you know, Dave might have moved the camera through like a phone box or something like that. So we had to make some small adjustments and then figure out how to do all the crane hands off. You know, the camera goes onto a crane, it goes up above the scooters and back down. And also where to do the splits as well. So the sort of the premise behind the musical number is that when Take That burst out onto the street, no one knows who they are. They've just signed their first record deal. By the time they've danced their way down the street at the very end, they're now, you know, we fast forwarded sort of 3 or 4 years, they're crazy famous and everyone knows who they are. So as they're dancing down, there's a number of costume changes that the band go through. And so obviously Robbie's easy because we've got control over him, but all the rest of the Take That group have to stop, cut, go away, go into hair and makeup, change costume, come back out again, and then we shoot the next piece. We did look at trying to do it as a set build in Melbourne, but there wasn't physically a space large enough to construct the amount of street that we would need. Even if we doubled it up and went down one side and then came back down the other side, there wasn't a big enough space. So we decided to shoot it actually on Regent Street, and we went to the UK for 4 nights. And you know, because it's a oneer, you start at the start of the sequence and you shoot, and the next night you join the new bit onto the previous bit, and you keep on going until you get to the very end. But it was very stressful because you have to get all the pieces, you know. You can't miss like half of it. It just doesn't work. It's all or nothing. And we had very strict rules about needing to be gone from the street by 5:30 a.m. Like nothing, no cranes. Everything had to be gone, otherwise they weren't going to let us shoot the next day. So yeah, we had to be very, very diligent. And you know, if there's anyone out there who is contemplating shooting a musical number on Regent Street with mobility scooters, don't do it.
Your poor
They
script
are the most
supervisor too.
temperamental things ever. Yeah.
Your poor scripty having to keep track of continuity when it gets taken down and then reestablished every night for that. Oh.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It was a lot, but I mean the numbers. Yeah, it's fantastic. There's a lot of post work as well that needs to go into it. You know, everything is there, shot there. The extras are there, but we had to augment it with a lot of digital traffic for safety reasons. And there were certain things like, you know, when the gumballs go flying across the road and everyone starts slipping on them. They were all added in post, but all the dancers are actually on, you know, Heelys, the shoes with little wheels, and so they had to, slip around on top of it. It was cool. I mean, looking back on it now, I look back with fondness, I think, at the time.
Yeah. Well, what about the pogo sticks? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. It must be pretty difficult to keep in unison on a pogo sticks and bounce to the beat and, you know, hit all the marks. I mean, it's the sort of thing where you can see not only from a previous perspective, but just all the choreography, all the just the training of those skills to just get it all in camera and all to the beat and everything. You need to plan that stuff like a logistical exercise, like down to the minute details.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm glad they used those. We built the wheeled shoes in Melbourne. We built it for the dancers, and we weren't sure how that ever worked out. So they did use them. That's fantastic. Okay, great.
Yeah, it's actually one of my regrets is that after we'd finished shooting, they said if anyone wants a pair of Heelys, they can grab a pair. Because I had about 50 of them, and I never got a chance.
Yeah.
My I don't know, 7-year-old self would be going nuts trying to think about someone getting free Heelys. You know, there's everyone's focusing justifiably on the Robbie, but there is quite a bit of additional VFX work that you guys do throughout this film. So I was curious about some of the bigger tasks that your team had to do from a VFX perspective that aren't as obvious to people. If there's just one or two that you want to single out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of environment work as well. There's some digital environments in the film that I don't think anyone has noticed, which is great. You don't want them to. But like the scene where Robbie first comes home after seeing his dad at the the holiday camp. That was a set that was built in Melbourne, but it was literally two or three house facades, and everything else in that street is extended digitally. So that's definitely a big one. The other one was obviously she's the one on the boat. So that was again the boat section where all the dancing takes place, and the staircase. That was all built as a it was an incredible set actually. It just felt like it being on a boat. Yeah. But the water, the boats around them, and then obviously south of France beyond that was all we shot plates for the south of France, but everything in between was digitally created as well.
So what is it, just like on a gimbal or I guess it's not rocking really. It's pretty smooth,
No.
so it's just.
We tried that. We tried having the boat rocking, but it just looked like we didn't track the camera properly. Like it was just sliding. So I was like, I think the boat was big enough and stable enough that we were just like, okay, yeah, it's just not moving.
What'd you do for all those fireworks?
That was all simulated. We literally pulled just reference of fireworks and just sort of started as with all these things, we go down a bit of a rabbit hole researching different effects and things like that. We had some practical lighting on set on the day, which we had to time into in terms of colors and timing. But there, the fireworks were completely digital.
I think just going back to Rock DJ for a sec too, that is actually 36 different plates stitched together into one, a one, and MG style and the film style is to be very practical and in camera. So it was actually quite a task to get all that stuff to line up, like as hard as you try, actors end up in different spots. You have misalignments of cameras. So to have all that be seamless was quite a task that hopefully no one has ever seen.
No, that's incredible. Dave, what about you? You got one?
A couple of things. Yeah, I mean, we animated almost 2,000 shots of Robbie. He's in, pretty much every shot. So that's obviously the lion's share of the animation work. But we did animate a few other things, like vehicles are, surprisingly difficult to animate convincingly because we're all very familiar at seeing cars, trucks, and for Come Undone, where Robbie kind of skids out of the gate there of the mansion and onto the road. From that point on, he's driving a digital car. And what else? Lots of digi-doubles, but we always use motion capture for that because it's just straight away you perceive it as real. And so all the crowd extensions we would do capture for, even swimming fans as they're underwater in the end of the Come Undone sequence, and the paparazzi, we did our best to capture all of that stuff. So yeah, but I mean, what I actually really loved about this film was that we were able to focus so much on this one asset and just get, through sheer repetition and familiarity, get really good at getting a great performance out of each and every shot.
All right, well, I believe we're about out of time, guys, but this, thank you for making this. It really is one of the more unique visual effects showcases I've seen in a while. So, congratulations, all of you, on your nomination.
Thank you.
Nominations plural, I should say, but
maybe we should get those wheelies, Luke, on the red carpet.
Honestly, yeah, Oscar voting hasn't started yet. Get out there, showcase those wheelies, and then all of a sudden, how can they not vote for you, right? All right, well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Good luck on flight.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.